Yeah.
Looks good though.
So, mate.
So have you got a website as well, or what's the deal?
No. So, yeah.
Santos snowboarding.
Santos is going to be like the godfather of this channel, mate, and I'll be.
Is he going to start smoking a cigar and like wearing an overcoat and stuff?
Well, he sort of does. I think he's smoking something when he's smoking some sort of cigar, the old jazz cigarette maybe or something.
Oh, was it? Yeah, right.
The old jazz cigarette. No, I don't know. But
so,
mate,
is it going to be
really?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say.
No,
really,
no, you go.
Yeah, we seem to have a bit of a delay again, but
yeah,
we'll work through it, mate. Yeah, so today I'm no longer, or I've obviously still got another channel which I'm sort of, it'll still be there, but it's been too hard.
Got that snowboarding channel.
Yeah, they've turned it into a snowboarding channel and a dog loving channel or something. So
it's got dog videos too.
Yeah, there's a dog video.
I've never heard of that. That's bizarre.
I know. So that's my other channel, which has been really heavily.
Have you Googled the names of those videos to see if they're anywhere else?
Mate, if you get on the whoever, I forget the name of who they call themselves, when you go to their page, you can see it's really bizarre. It looks like thousands of views, but then you click on their videos and it'll say like 1 view or no view or something like that. And then you'll click on another, like back on the other page and click on the comments, and it just says thousands of people who have been hacked as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty, it's not by accident, but mate, that's that. Yeah, so today, mate, I'm sort of really stoked to be representing Syncretism Australia and Syncretism Society in Australia, and to have, as I said, Santos is really stoked for us and really supportive, because, mate, it's it's the truth is what we love, and the toroidal teaching, I guess the toroidal field teaching is something that I'm really passionate about, mate. So I'll be sort of doing a lot more chats on that. So, mate, welcome today, my dear friend Cambell from Autodidactic and Spiral Up.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure, bro. And I've watched a couple of very interesting videos of yours lately, and they're always interesting. But the one in particular, mate, that you did a video with Howdy and Archaics.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I'm constantly, you think you're getting a handle on things, and then, and then more curveballs. So, mate, first of all, can I ask you, like, your thoughts on the simulacrum that Archaics talked about?
Simulacrum? I got, someone told me how to pronounce it properly, simulacrum or something, but yeah. So Archaics is, it's the name of his channel, Jason, who's, he's spent 26 years inside, and he basically read books and ended up running the libraries and stuff in prison, and so got access to all these old books. And so he's got this, he's basically found a code, is what it is. So he sees repeating patterns in history and repeating numbers and all this kind of stuff, and so it's looking like a computer code to him. It's like literally, that scene in the Matrix where you see what are they, Tank and his brother, the two dudes, and they're like got this, and they're like literally, and I think Neo even says, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just reading the code." And I always thought, how could you do that? What are you looking for? And it's the same with like numerology and gematria and all this stuff. I never really understood what that was all about, and that's why I haven't really studied it. I was always like, what are they on about? You sort of hear people and they're going, this word's 24 and that's this and that's this and that matches, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But they're reading code. What they're doing is they're reading the code of the reality, right? Which kind of points to a simulation a bit, right? Because everyone that I've heard who's right into the numbers, they all say this is a simulation. So it's definitely, it's a whole nother curveball. I remember I did a video, I actually put it up on my channel about a month ago, but it was recorded probably a year ago with Jay Widener. And in that, he said to me, he said, if this is a simulation, then the creator would spend more time on the present than he does on the past. And so that's maybe why the past doesn't make sense, why we can't figure it out, because it's badly written, you know, so yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting concept, isn't it? But just one more point. I don't say all the time, but to me, I was also thinking about, you know, when we think about, you know, most religions and most sort of theosophies and spiritual practices, they all talk about us coming in, right? We come in here, like we come into a body, we incarnate, we come and get an avatar, and then we're born into the world, and then at the end we leave. So even in that context, it is, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, unless you're an atheist, which I don't believe in, then you believe in life before and after death. So, you know, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, cool, man. So many cool things to sort of bring up when we talk of avatars. I always trip out, mate. Just the thought, like, you never see yourself like everyone else does, like, because you'll only ever see yourself in a mirror, which is a reflection of yourself. Your true you will never see yourself. It's just crazy.
Yeah, even most photography is reversed, you know. I think some, you know, you can probably get reverse things, but even photography, yeah, it reverses images and stuff. So yeah, we never get to see what anyone else sees, and you know, vice versa, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting, that one.
And just, you know, it's literally, you know, you play those, I don't play video games, but people, you know, they play the games and you just see the hands. So you're controlling the person, but you only see the hands in front, you know?
Yeah.
And it's literally like you're in a body, you know, like when you're playing these games and you think of it like that, you know, it's crazy.
I wonder if there's a button, you know, and then we can push it and get a different view. We'll be up here looking at ourselves and walking. But yeah, it's like those old boxing games where you just see the hands coming out. It's true, isn't it? It's true. We've just got this sort of this perspective of just, you know, literally. I mean, because obviously our eyes are up here, so you know, our perspective is normally from like a floating camera almost, isn't it? You know, and the whole computer thing, you know, I used to think about it a lot when computers first came out. They really mimic, you know, us really, and then it's sort of morphed into their mimicking, you know, reality, right? Because you've got a computer, you've got, you know, like your running system, which is like your mind. Then you've got your memory, which is like your memory, right? Your subconscious. You've got all these different things. Now we can communicate on them, and now they're building worlds that we can go into and create, you know, characters, and we can run around and do all these different things. And of course, now they're pushing, you know, the virtual world,
yeah,
which would be like you know, another fractal compression. If you can imagine, if we are in a video game, right, for whatever reason, and inside that game, we've now created a video game that some people are going to jump inside, right? Put the VR goggles on, and you know, you can imagine if that becomes their reality and they can get food and stuff, and they never leave, then that becomes their vision, right? That they believe that's them. So it's a good concept.
Yeah, there was that 70s movie with it was really not Blade Runner. It was something. Oh mate, it was really well done. It was 70 about being inside a video game. It'll come to me. But
not Tron.
Tron, you legend. Well done. That's it, mate. Tron. Yeah. Wow. So they've been telling us for a while.
Well, Yeah, I mean, Tron's interesting. When you said that, I was thinking there's all this work on the circuit board cities, right? And literally in Tron, he goes into the computer, but it's like the circuit board, you know, is
Yeah.
is the landscape, and that becomes the cities, but it's full of these little beings. Yeah, nice analogy.
Funny that, isn't it? Sort of deja vu or something like that. So, mate, yeah, I found that chat you did with Archaic's really fascinating. So he was talking about basically this construct that we are in is the simulacrum. I hope that's correct. And he's talking about people just like us, but they're on the outside controlling it and doing all these tests and doing whatever they want to do and doing, running whatever sequences or programs you might want to call it. And he was saying that it's been corrupted. I found fascinating from the outside, and then they've come in here.
Yeah.
So,
I mean that. I was listening to I think it was another live he did, one of his other videos, and someone asked him, you know, what happens, you know, at the apocalypse when this ends, and he said, oh, you'll probably just wake up, you know, sitting in a chair, you know, surrounded by people that you know, who knows, in some kind of, you know, building. And I was like, what? Because I've got two friends, and people may know JCK and Sonia, and they've both sort of separate from each other told me that story, that they've actually woken up. They're both, you know, like clairvoyant psychic channel sort of types, if anyone doesn't know them. And yeah, they've both woken up, and they've told me in this chair. And I think it was JC said, she's like, where am I? What's going on? And someone looked at her and said, oh, you always say that when you come back. Don't worry, you know, it's all good. And then and then he said that, you know, so, you know, it's a very interesting concept. And the other thing is, you know, which we all know, time, right? Time is, it doesn't really exist. So, you know, he's saying that this could be a simulation, that in the real world, right, the outside world, that it could be, you know, just a couple of hours. And down here, it's years and or lifetimes, which is like that movie, DiCaprio movie, not Divergent, Inception.
Okay.
Where they go down layers, and as you go down, time takes longer and longer, or you get more and more time. So wouldn't that be interesting? You know, if there's some event happening and they have to quickly try and work out the best way to get through it, or whatever, and so they run these simulations, and everyone sort of goes in I mean, interesting concept. The other one of something coming in from outside, I mean, again, this goes back to me, for me to you know, like the Archon, the story of the Archon, the Demiurge, which comes from the Essenes, where they literally, they talk about, there was you know, they talk about it as, you know, Earth and in different terms, but they talk about, you know, the creation and the Earth being created, and then something else coming in that wasn't connected, you know, they say, to soul. And we've got all these words, you know, that are religious, you know, but, you know, what do they really mean? You know, all these different words, you know, they could just mean it's not connected to the original mainframe, right? And this is the other thing I've been talking about for probably a year at least, of like the program overlay, right? That we've got something, then something's overlaid a program. And then, you know, then Jason comes along saying that so it's very interesting to me. I mean, definitely needs more, you know, like everything, right? We shouldn't jump onto an idea and go, oh, that's the truth, that's it. You know, we should go, that's really interesting, but and just keep out doing our research. But it's definitely something to think about.
Mate, so we've heard that information from Jason. How does that make you feel about Tartaria? You know, because he sort of shrugged it off more, or I shouldn't say shrugged it off, but sort of was like, you know, it's like he was sort of saying that it's different realities that have merged, or like different
Mm.
different realities that have been left behind and stuff like that. So wow, that's huge for Tartarian fans to take.
It is. I mean, but I mean, ultimately, you know, we're on this journey for the truth, right? So that's why we can't sort of jump on things, or even, you know, have past beliefs or whatever and say that's the truth. That's, you know, and start fighting people. I'm right, you're wrong. You know, that doesn't get us anywhere, right? I mean, so yeah, I think it's good. I mean, this sort of, it's interesting, right? This, I mean, this has been going on about 3 weeks for me, and it started with a video from JCK again, and she was talking about, you know, just we all need to be careful, and she was sort of talking about how there's, you know, people out there that may not be who we think they are, right? And they're sort of there to shift our perspectives and things and get us off the path. And I'm not saying that any of these people are doing that, but obviously we had that Iwa Anon video come out. And then I've seen a few other ones that have come out, and a few, you know, channels are now naming people. And it's so we've got this big, you know, one theme I did get from Iwa that was positive, and from some other videos, is that we do need to, you know, put out the facts, right? We can't be sort of swayed and say, well, this is my stand, you know, this is my hill and I'm going to die on it kind of thing. You know, we can't move forward if we can't admit that we're wrong. So,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that any of it's wrong. Just all, you know, we need to do a lot more looking into it. But one interesting thing he said was, what did he say? 1890. He said it looks like this version of the simulation that we're in started in 1890. Therefore, everything before that is basically coding, right? It's just a program. And he was sort of talking that because this is an overlay and they've done it so many times, and that it's all, the past is all a bit mixed up, which is what we see. But the other thing is, and I've kind of said it for years, for like 20 years or more, is, you know, we don't know. Like, we could have been created 5 seconds ago. We don't know, because we could have been created with all of our memories implanted intact, right? And then we would, how would you ever tell that? So this is the thing, you know, we've got to take all this into account, that, you know, we don't know what's going on. We don't know how physical or non-physical this is. It's just all more research. And I think, you know, I did a chat with Howdy, and we were talking about how the question is the quest. And, you know, questions are much better than answers, you know, because without the right questions, you don't get the right answers. So I think it's good. I think it's, you know, I think we all sort of, I definitely felt a month or two where everything went stale. The energy went really flat, and everything was kind of, you know, heavy, and it was hard to get stuff done. And now it looks like we're coming out. But I think, you know, to me, it's whatever, right? The program, the simulacrum, God, whatever, is pushing us in a direction. It's saying, right, yeah, you've got that info now. Don't sit there and just keep, you know, repeating yourself. Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we need to do, is just keep exploring and keep exploring. And, you know, if you find out it is you know, a simulation, then it's the same thing, right? We just need to find out how to control it better. And, you know, to me, it doesn't make that much difference, because it's a fairly good simulation.
Yeah.
Just need to work out how to wake up. Get me out of here.
Wow. And mate, when we're just talking about people that are there to push people off their paths, really interesting point. And, you know, like you said, we're not saying any of these people are, like, in particular, that we're not pointing any fingers, but it's very interesting, mate, you know. And like the Iwa Anon, I just find that absolutely fascinating, to the length they've gone to suck you in that first video, if you know what I mean, and then sort of do a backflip.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, to me, that there's there's different ways we can look at this. I mean, it looks like, to us, to the wider sort of community, it does look like he's, done a backflip or whatever. And we don't know, maybe he does, maybe he had a whatever, right? Some awakening, and he thought that all everything else was sort of null and voided. That may be true too. He may have come to his own conclusions, but ultimately, so that may have happened, but we get to choose, right? It's it's the 80-20 rule. You can believe that and go, oh, he's this, he's that, oh my God, how's he? Or you can go, oh, it's all interesting. Because for me, one of the big takeaways was he mentioned and he emphasized, this 72 years to build this cathedral last century. And to me, that was a massive drop. So if he's been compromised, I kind of think he put that in there to as a drop to people that, because that bit of information, I mean, 72 years, look at Australia, right, at the amount of cathedrals that we've got, and we're just over 200 years old. You can imagine, the time frames are completely destroyed by that, pretty much. So to me, that's what I'm going to start looking into. So it's with everything, right? You can look at it good or bad. To me, the big thing is don't judge it as good or bad, because then you can't learn, right? Because if it's right, well, you can't learn anything because you're right. And if it's wrong, well, you're not going to look at it, so you can't learn anything. So when it's interesting, you can learn something from it. Be autodidactic, right?
That's it, mate. Be autodidactic. It's the only way. And really, people really hold on to their beliefs, don't they, mate? Like we've been brought into this reality, and a certain narrative has been pushed. And why do people hold on to these beliefs, mate?
I mean, ultimately, people want to be part of a group, but kind of, Stockholm, Stockholm. You don't want to be the odd one out. You want it's easier to join the herd, and that's obviously reinforced. When you're growing up, if you're the kid that's different, then you get bullied and teased, and teachers, stand you in the corner and all that kind of stuff. So it's programmed into us, and it's also not school, right? They teach us what to think, not how to think, and they teach us to rely on, authority, teachers and experts. So people, that we're not even taught the skills on how to research. So unless we sort of go into and we just figure it out ourselves, then people, it's not. I don't think it's something they even think about. They think if they want information, they'll just turn on the telly or YouTube or whatever, and again, it comes back to this judging, right? They think that whatever they see is either going to be right or wrong, when we know that nothing's 100% right, nothing's 100% wrong. There's it's good and bad in everything, right? What I was talking about there. So, what was the question you asked me?
Well, mate, I've got heaps more.
Ask me another one then. I don't know if I answered that.
When you're just talking about basically we're talking about repeaters and why people are easily
that's right.
Why they're easily or more that holding on to this belief system, and this look, it's a program now, that they're really it's been installed.
It is. I mean, I've heard a few interesting points of view on that. One of them is that the NPCs, right? These are background people, which kind of goes back to the simulation theory, non-player characters. And basically, because they're running on the mainframe program, that they literally can't stray from that. And someone was explaining it that you can talk to some people, and some, obviously a lot of them just go blank, and you can't even get in. You can't, because it doesn't merge with their program. But other people you can talk to and they'll sort of listen like, oh yeah. But then you see them a day or two later and you go and try and bring up the same topic and it's like it's been wiped.
Yeah.
They're like back to square one, like they don't recall sort of what you were talking about. So a lot of them, that's a question. Are they just, but I mean, that's also the same as, as if we're spiritual beings here and we've been literally programmed with our thoughts, right? Everything's really the same kind of, it's just the words we're using are different. So I think it's just programming. But the big thing that's happening now, which is like what we were talking about, all these infiltrators, is if we get back to the, if it's a simulation or whatever this is, if it's easier to hold everyone in a paradigm, whatever this invader is, then what was I going to say? So it's easier to keep everyone running the same program. And then when we start thinking different thoughts, right? And I think Jason called them errants. When you start going outside the program, the system has to expand more energy on you, whatever the system is. So another way, instead of, if it can't pull us back into the main group, it just sets up other groups, right? So because it's easier for it to have 100,000 people in a group, even if it's outside the billion, because then they're all on the same program, right? So then we get these people and they'll sort of, give out information that's good and get a good following. Then they start to go sideways. And before you know it, you're in this subsection and that's fine. It's not even a problem unless you believe this stuff is the truth and you're willing to fight for it. If everything's just interesting, then we don't get caught. It's just when people are like, that's wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, let's fight. That doesn't, it doesn't achieve anything. Everyone's wrong in their life. I mean, I've never met anyone who's been right 100% of the time. Met a lot of people who think they are and rather not talk to them.
Yeah. I was going to say my wife would probably think I'm right all the time.
Well, sometimes wives are right all the time.
Yeah, and going back a little bit, Legend, I was just thinking about the Australian history you just touched upon. So easy it's a really good one to explore because of the short timeline that we have, in Australia. And I was actually just having that conversation with someone this morning. 1788, we arrived, no tools, and mate, within such a short time frame, Melbourne, Gotham City, built by Batman.
Batman. Sure he was. And he's been robbing us ever since.
Yeah, man. This crazy timeline that has been given to us, and as a history buff, as a young child, it's just fascinating to now. It seems like we can piece it together a lot more than the information that, for example, that I got studying ancient history at school.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest sort of clue is they don't tell us about all this stuff, right? That we're uncovering all, World's Fairs, right? Well, literally, they were sort of one of the founding things of Australia to get us into the international community. We don't hear about them at all in schooling in Australia. Like, do we? We hear lots about the bush rangers and about the gold rush. They sort of hammer certain things into you, but then they leave so much out. And see, Melbourne was the last city. It's the newest.
Wow.
And so Perth, I was looking into Perth the other day and founded 1829. So what's that? I mean, that's 33, right? Years after apparently they turned up here. And the next year they were building a big stone church. It wasn't a huge cathedral, but, a big sort of cathedral church in the 1830s. And then within 10 years, they had like 10 massive, big, stone structures, right? And then the interesting thing is we had a star fort here. We had like the Citadel, and they knocked it over to build the freeway. But there's not, they don't mention it when you look into the history of the old build. They don't mention it being, they just forget about it. Sorry, we knocked that over. Nothing to see here. You know, so there's a lot of pointers. You know, the main one is they're literally, we know they're trying to cover something up because they're not giving us the full story. But so like I said, if it's 72 years to build a cathedral in the 20th century, you know, you can imagine in the 19th century would have taken the whole century, right? And when we look at the amount of cathedrals they say went up in Australia, it's, I mean, it would be hundreds. You know, and it's mad. You find them in little country towns. Literally, it would have taken the whole town. That's all they could have done is focus on building this cathedral for 100 years. You know, it's a silly, you know, it's silly.
And these buildings are all oversized. You know, it's really interesting. All these like country towns, like you said, they're building oversized buildings, asylums.
Yep.
Like art. What I love too, Cam, sorry. I've got to stop. See, I'm trying to get away from calling everyone legend and bro.
You can call me legend. That's all right.
Legend.
I'll accept
legend.
it.
Oh no, now I've lost my chain of thought.
Oh God, what were you saying?
Well,
Australia, cathedrals, time, putting
in these local, these
regions. Oh yeah, small towns, oversized buildings in small towns.
Yeah, oversized. So yeah, in these small towns, like it's incredible, mate. There we go again. It's incredible that the length and the ability they had to build, like, and as we know, the glass manufacturing and remember they came over with no tools on that boat.
This fleet, apparently.
You know, so Australia's history is really unique.
It is, and it was all stored, apparently. You know, all the records from colonisation were stored in the exhibition building that they built for the Sydney World's Fair. And of course, we all know what happens to those buildings that are built of glass, iron, and brick. They always burn to the ground. Yep, and everything went with it. Apparently, all the records, all gone. But yeah, the oversized buildings, and a lot of people jump on and like, oh, everything wasn't giant. You know, we're getting a bit of kickback at the moment in Tartara. It's all starting. But I mean, look, giants aside, if you're in a new colony and you're building a building, why would you use 2 to 3 times the materials that you need to use? And that's what we're talking about. If you're building buildings with 20-foot ceilings, that's going to take twice the amount of materials, twice the amount of workers or time. You know, and you know, we've got to, you know, these are all these buildings were built, but you've got to understand that in Australia, all the industry had to be built first, all the transportation, all the warehousing, and we don't get that story. You know, before you build a brick building, you need to find the clay pit, you know, start that up. Then you need kilns and brick manufacturers, warehousing, and then you need transport, and then you need bricklayers and architects and all this stuff just before you start. But you know, we just get these stories of, oh no, they just whacked it up in this country town, you know, 100 miles from anywhere. They just whacked it up in 2 years.
Yeah,
and why? Because there was a gold rush.
And while they're doing that, they're building all the subways, you know, underground. Like it's quite a feat that was achieved. That it's the only word to say it's unbelievable.
Well, it is. You know, when you take into account all the train lines, all the tram lines, you know, obviously all the fountains that we find everywhere, you know, and all the plumbing systems that they would need. And then obviously, you know, knocking buildings over, you know, and these, you know, these beautiful big old buildings, and we're told, you know, in Australia that they build them and then literally 20 years later they knock them over. Now, again, why would you do that? We're talking sort of late 1800s, early 1900s. There's as much land as people want. If someone wanted to build a new building, it would cost them more to demolish a building and then build on that site than it would to just go to a vacant bit of land, which apparently was everywhere, and build a new building. You know, in a new colony, why would you be knocking stuff over until you're fully established? I mean, these buildings, even if they didn't suit the purpose, they could have been used for something, right? For something else. And like I said, there's apparently so much land that it would have cost whoever was building the new building would have been a cheaper option to just go and build on vacant land than to demolish a building and then clear it and then rebuild that. So and time factor, it just doesn't make sense at all.
And when you talk about clearing land, like think of all the land, like for just, okay, you want to build a railway, you don't just go out and build a railway. You've got to survey the land, you got to plan, you know, the excavations that would take years, mate, to build these, like just the train lines, mate, you know, mate, there we go, you know, and I just think yeah, Australia destroys the narrative really heavily because, you know, obviously we you know, old Jimmy Cook rocked up in 1788 in Botany Bay, and little behold, we have these beautiful cities in no time. Really fascinating. And Cambell does great. Go and check Cambell out at Autodidactic. He has another channel, Spiral Up, and Cambell is probably up there, number 1, 2 history guys out there. So look into his stuff. Really awesome work, mate. And I'm gonna, mate, Cam, I'm gonna have to wrap it up a little bit early today, unfortunately, my friend.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got a few things on the Sav, and I really thank you for coming on the channel today. And as I said, you're the first cab off the rank. Really appreciate you being here in Syncretism Society Australia. I'm going to get this backdrop sorted out. So really appreciate you being here, Cam. And
Right, thanks for having me.
And next time, yeah, we'll continue these chats and keep digging into the truth. I'm more inspired than ever to really get this channel pumping, and would appreciate everyone's support. Please like and subscribe and check out all Cambell's stuff too. Thank you so much, brother, for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.